A few months ago, I beat 2 extreme towers on arrow keys, both of which are much harder than TODC, which was my only SC at the time. This got me to reconsider the true potential of playing obbies with only a keyboard. So over the course of winter break, I decided to test myself to see how many SC towers I could actually do with my keyboard only playing method. I want to first preface this video by saying that I've only ever done 3 SCs on arrow keys, with my shortest run taking a week. And my goal was to beat 7 more SCs by the end of winter break. In other words, I'll have roughly 2 weeks to get to 10 total arrow key soul crushing completions, which is a pretty high bar. I only set 10 SCs as my goal because it's a double digit number. Also, to clarify my playing method, I do actually use arrow keys to move forward and backwards. So for the most part, I don't use W or S, I only use A and D. Arrow keys are used for camera turning, but I do use alignment keys on jumps with sharp camera turns that arrow keys aren't as capable of doing. In short, everything is done on keyboard only, except I primarily use arrow keys to both turn and move. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Without further ado, let's begin the journey. Now it's just a question of which SC to start with. Since the only insane I've done is TODC, pretty much every option is on the table here. Although I haven't played any of the insanes before in game, I had done odd jump attempts on some of them before in practice. While I could start with Tower of Med Trauma since it's one of the only SCs that others have already verified on keyboard only, I decided to do a different tower first that I consider my easiest starting option. I did Tower of High Adrenaline first because it fit my skill set as a fast-paced speedrun based tower, and it's pretty arrow key friendly as there aren't a whole lot of stakeout reps. While its first 2 floors have some loop failable parts, they aren't that hard, so I made it to floor 3 pretty quickly. And although this first wrap on 3 is quite a tight jump, I was able to do it first try. And as far as an early run goes, making it halfway through floor 4 is a pretty good start.
Oh no.
Aside from the fact that I failed a free jump. Unfortunately, that's as far as I'd get for a while, because I struggled to get past 3 and 4 after that.
Oh my god. Oh. There. No. No. Oh, what was that? Oh, shit. Okay. That was not what.
I was a little frustrated by these loop fails, but eventually, with the help of high jumping this 1x6, I made it to 5, which is really easy with the exception of these spinner timings.
That was close. Oh, I was closer.
Luckily, this outside is literally impossible to fail. It's just simple walking and jumping at high speed, and you have plenty of time. 6 isn't much harder either with this outside being netted. However, this first run past 4 shows that I probably should have spent a bit more time practicing some of the earlier floors.
I don't remember this part actually. I think you drop down, right? Oh, okay. Jesus. Okay. Oh no! Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, what? That was so dumb.
Setting aside that absolutely idiotic setback, I had no issues making it back, and it was time for the outside, the hardest part of the tower.
Oh, here we go. First 7 run.
Floor 7 is arguably the hardest floor, and falling on either 7 or 8 is pretty much game over. One of the most infamous parts of this floor are these spinners coming up, but as long as you don't hesitate, you'll be perfectly timed with the spinners, so they gave me no trouble at all.
Oh my gosh, is it possible to... Can you save yourself here? Yes.
A part that did give me trouble though were these conveyors. You have to time them as late as possible, and they're stupidly tight. Luckily, you can save yourself if you fail the first one.
No! I mistimed the conveyors again?
Unfortunately, you can't save yourself if you fail the second one, nor would this be the last time I failed those.
Oh no! What? I don't know how many times I failed the conveyors in practice, but I definitely didn't fail it 4 times in a row. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, I definitely struggled a lot more on these conveyors than I expected. Most of the gameplay after that is pretty straightforward, except for this loose platform section. These parts were incredibly sensitive in the practice place. You must do some long precise wraps to land on the center of these, or it'll tilt really hard and you'll fall. I wasn't sure if they were as sensitive in-game as they were in practice, but I found out pretty quickly.
No, shit. Oh, that is really sensitive.
After that fail, I took my time setting up those jumps to make sure I didn't fail that part again. The rest of the outside is not nearly as bad. I found a very nice way to do these stickouts on half studs, by not doing them whatsoever. And just like that, the hardest floor is over. But like 7, falling on 8 will also end your run, and floor 8 is still failable.
Oh my gosh. No!
Especially when that happens.
I don't know why I knew that was gonna happen. Please, come on. What? Seriously? Are you kidding me? The first one.
After 2 8 fails and 6 7 fails, all that's left is the final speedrun challenge.
I hope you're a good speedrunner. I don't know if I'm a good speedrunner. Oh my god! What was that? Please. Oh my gosh. Oh. Yes. Ooh. Let's go. The speedrunning was fun. The outside also had some fun gameplay, I guess. Good, that's 1 down.
I spent most of Saturday traveling back from university, so aside from the time I spent all jumping the Raven Thanos Tower, or TOIG, my grind would continue on Sunday. And although TOIG had some questionable parts, I thought it was a great tower with some definite grind potential on arrow keys, but ultimately I still have to do this tower first. Although I did high adrenaline first, I can see how this might be easier, since every floor in this tower is very short gameplay-wise. However, this tower makes up for it by its raw difficulty and punishment, as there were a shocking amount of lane fewer precise jumps on a lot of these floors that I would get stumped by. Floors 4 and 5 were the biggest example of this, and were the floors I struggled on the most. However, I found ways around this by using unorthodox but more consistent strats, like jumping on this wheel to better time this jump, or doing a ledge grab for a slanted head hitting wrap that I kept failing, as well as using both alignment and arrow keys to align for certain long jump transitions. This helped me get to 6 quite quickly.
I'm not that far yet.
Although I would fail the scary thin trust slide on this run, I was making quick progress. Then on the next run, something insane happened.
Okay. Oh no. Oh no. Get back up. Or do I have to redo? Okay, back to back, nice. Oh no. Don't screw up the spinner. Seems about right. I don't know why it didn't hold up.
I thought I was about to fluke half the tower, which would have been unthinkable, since I was only about 1 hour in. However, the grind would slow down a lot from here, and I repeatedly go nowhere and fail some of those precise jumps on the earlier floors, so I decided to try again the next day instead. Overall, Tower of Bent Trauma was an extremely enjoyable tower, although I was pretty lucky that I never failed 9 and only failed the final stretch once, so it took by far the shortest of my SC runs. Now that the first 2 Ring 9 towers have been done on arrow keys, you might expect the curved descent to be next, but unfortunately I ruled it out since there were too many unfriendly jumps on arrow keys. But there was another mid-insane that interested me, and it might not be the one that you expect. I know that for most of the community, Tower of Icy Blizzards isn't exactly light, but for a tower that was added to try and fit into Ring 5, it's low-key pretty good. And most importantly, it was surprisingly arrow key friendly, with the only exceptions being a few 2x3 wraps coming up, and these corner wraps, which I had done much harder versions of in TODC. The biggest problem I had was with the somewhat weird parlay involving some of the mixed client object and purist gameplay usage.
Oh, what? Bruh. I didn't even know that could happen. Oh no. Nope. That's one way to fail. I just slipped right off. This tower has a lot of small parts.
But aside from those occasional jumps or sections, the overall gameplay flow and progression felt satisfying and consistent at just the right intensity level, with a well-executed theme. I especially liked Floor 4's mechanic, with the falling ice blocks. However, while I remember enjoying this tower, I will agree that this tower is incredibly forgettable, because when I went back to edit this, I didn't remember a single thing that happened in my grind, aside from the somewhat inconsistent difficulty across the floors. So yeah, here's how far I made it.
No! Oh, okay. Oh, Jesus Christ, that was scary. Okay. There's one more hard jump left, basically. What's this? Okay. Here. Oh, okay. So insane. Oh my gosh. 4-5 on day 1. Oh, and I completed a challenge. That's kind of funny. Nope. It's... okay. Nice. This is unbelievable progress, honestly. Floor 6 of 2 IB, and someone recognized me in chat. If I fail this, if that person watching now would be kind of embarrassing. Okay. Nice. Got it. Okay, this part. Ooh, nice. That last one's a 2x3, so I mean, it's possible without alignment keys, but inconsistent. I cannot believe I'm still going. Ooh. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Not the end of the world. Oh no. Okay, yeah, that's unfortunate. Oh no. Luckily, it's netted itself. Luckily, but I don't know how I was doing so well. I just have to throw it out of there. Great. Oh yeah, I fell here for some reason. Okay. Nice. Famous Toddboy. You're kind of creepy. Says you. Please leave, okay. Oh, okay. You go down there, right? I see parts ahead. Okay. Oof. Scary. As darkness sets in and the storm grows more relentless, you did not turn back when you had the chance. Good luck ahead. Floor 8 on day 1 is crazy. Oh my gosh. Cannot believe I landed that first try. Let it pass. Okay. Ooh. Okay. This part is stressful. No! Okay. I mean, it didn't fall back to floor 4, so. Oh, and. Oh, okay.
For a mid-insane grind, making it to 8 on the first day was extremely promising. The main challenge was 3 and 4, so as long as I can make it past those scores, I can generally make it pretty far. Now the next day, things would get better, and we'll make it to 9, which is the hardest and most intense floor of the tower.
What?
TOIB is quite a packed tower, so the fact that literally nothing caught me and I fell all the way down is pretty unlucky. But if I can make it to the last section in 9, I knew it wasn't going to be long until I beat the tower.
Oh, no. Oh my gosh. Did I really just do that? Please. Oh. Let's go. GG. Oh, yes. Just this annoying now. This might take a while. Yeah, let's go.
And with that, I had just completed my 3rd SC in just 4 days of grinding, and things were looking really good for a challenge, as I had 1.5 weeks left with only 4 SC towers to go. Tower of Unsettling Heights is pretty low on the difficulty chart for a good reason. and it's that the first 5 floors are actually quite easy. However, despite this tower being rated bottom low insane, it wasn't exactly the friendliest tower to do on arrow keys.
Oh my god. I did the hard part and I messed the easy part up. Oh no. My brilliance never ceases to amaze me. Oh no, come on man.
Still, up to this point, the tower was probably only mid-high rem, and I made it to 6 on basically my second run. However, this is where the tower really starts showing its teeth. 6 has some of the toughest raw gameplay in the tower, with some borderline unfair jumps that took a while to get down in practice. But thankfully, it's netted, so as long as you get to 6, getting to 7 might take a while, but shouldn't be an issue.
Oh, please. Nice. First time here. I imagine the first of many times.
That's right, if you fail at any point on the last 4 floors, you have to restart your whole run, and the last 4 floors are all harder than the first 5 floors. Not only that, there's a rising lava final stretch at the end, where falling or going too slow will also end your run, which makes this tower extremely punishing. So while it seems like I'm already on floor 8,
Oh!
my grind had only just begun.
God dang it. That was a nice first try, I guess. Nice. Okay, but this jump is also bad. On arrow keys. Oh! Yeah, okay.
After this fail, I could already tell how this grind was gonna go. Not only do these last few floors have the hardest sections, they also have some of the unfriendliest jumps on arrow keys, and there were a lot of them. This tower is gonna be a make it to 7 until you beat it simulator, and I didn't like it one bit. I'll make it past this jump eventually, and so I finally made it to floor 9. 7 and 8 are probably the hardest parts of the final outside, but there was an even harder version of the jump that I failed coming up on floor 9.
No. God dang it.
And that went exactly how I expected it to go. I was several hours into the tower at this point, when this happened.
Okay. Okay. This is scary. I mean, the ending, I've practiced this a lot of times, so, I mean, I really hope, because I've done it in practice many times, of course. Oh! Oh my god. No! Oh my god! What? Oh no! Oh! What? Oh, I thought that was it. No! Oh! Oh, that's hilarious. That's going into the video instantly. I had 0 issues with the high jump in practice. What was that? It suddenly didn't work. What the hell was that? Jeez. Should I high jump the 1x6? Is high jumpable, but it's an 11 stud high jump. I can skip to the end, yeah.
It's up to you.
I know. If I fail it again, I've got no choice, really. I think I've got it high jump, but like, yeah. Okay, thank God, it's over.
Cool.
Oh,
Didn't take long at all.
oh my gosh, way overdue completion.
Heading into my week of vacation, EToH taught me two things. The first thing it taught me was the importance of using practice to find the right strats, especially on unsafe sections with unfriendly jumps. But the second thing was that it gave me a reality check. Getting to 7 SEs was going to be a lot more difficult than I thought, and returning the next week, the rest of them are only going to be just as brutal. The towers will only get harder from here. I knew going into this tower that I'd require a lot of practice and learning, given its complexity and high raw difficulty relative to my raw skill level. So despite being quite short, I spent a good 3 or so hours in the practice place to make sure I had everything down, and really knew how to do the jumps before I even began attempting. But things didn't exactly get off to an inspiring start. As far as a 5-life EToH run goes, I don't think it could have gone much worse than my first one, and my second run showed not much improvement, so I began wondering if all my practice was for nothing. But then, something clicked. I've been on this run. All of a sudden, I wasn't failing anything, even parts that were supposed to be hard on arrow keys. Floor 3 first try, floor 4 first try, floor 5 first try, floor 6 first try, and somehow I found myself on floor 8 with all 5 lives remaining. 9 and 10 are by far the hardest parts, so this would be a dream start to, and I started failing again. It was all a dream. I failed the first jump of 7. Twice. It's hope. Oh my god, we are so bad. Entering with 1 life left is not the ideal start I was hoping for, but at least I somewhat kept the run alive. Unfortunately, this tower used to be extreme for a reason. These last 2 floors are brutal and by far the hardest part of the tower. Still, my third attempt went so much better than I expected, and things only got better on my 4th try, as I made it to floor 9 again with 3 lives to go. Although it ultimately didn't amount to anything, with only 1 hour in the grind, I thought I'd get this tower over with soon. Sadly, things quickly fell off after that, as for the next hour or so, I seemed to completely forget how to play the tower, and started loop failing floors 3 and 4 again. So back into the practice place I went. Although my consistency on 3 and 4 improved the next day, I suddenly couldn't stop loop failing 5 and 6, 2 floors that suddenly became run enders, despite them not being much of an issue at all on the first day. This continuous loss of consistency was incredibly frustrating. Suddenly there was no guarantee that this would be a short run at all. These downward elevator mechanics were a section that ended my run frequently. For good reason, because you had to be very precise with your camera turns. I did eventually regain some consistency, and made it back to the last 2 floors a few times, with a handful of lives, and I finally get a few cracks at 10. After those fails, however, it was mostly the same fails on 5 and 6. But at least I was nearing the end, so I went back into practice, surely preparing that I was about to beat it the next day. And I started loop failing floor 7 again. Of course. Why? Literally every set of floors in the life system has now given me trouble. So despite my improved consistency on the first 6 floors, 8 was the furthest I was getting on most of my runs, where I started doing the thing again, where I could do something in practice like 100 times in a row, but then proceed to fail that same part in-game 3 times in a row. Great. So fun. At least I would have a couple runs tonight, but they mostly went nowhere. Clearly there were some glaring inconsistencies in my play that day, so back into the practice place I went, whether practice actually worked or not, which I was starting to doubt. At this point I was nearing the brink, and questioned when I was actually going to beat this tower. So entering day 4 of EToH, there were suddenly only 4 days remaining, and I still had 2 SCs to go after this, both of which were going to be on the higher end of the arrow key difficulty spectrum. Given that EToH took 4 days, and EToH is now taking 4 days, if I didn't beat it early today, I wasn't sure if I'd even get to 6 SCs, and I sure as hell would have no chance left of making it to 7.
Oh! Yes! 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 Oh! No lives left. Oh my gosh. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, yes, finally.
And now it was finally time. I had a few concerns about this tower, but while I was grinding EToH, I found out it had gotten a few nerfs to be closer to its old difficulty, so I anticipated that I was doing this next for sure. What I didn't anticipate, however, was that, with the exception of this first run where I failed 5 outside, that I would end up loop failing the first 4 floors for about 2 hours. And just when it looked like I was finally making it somewhere, this happened. So yeah, day 1 of TYG was looking like a complete disaster, if not for the fact that you can do this. Yeah, given how easily you can just jump down here, this was either a hilarious oversight or an intentional recovery skip. Either way, I quote-unquote made it to 7. This definitely makes all runs that make it past 7 a lot less stressful, since you can get back up in like 3 minutes. However, 7 is a pretty big difficulty spike, even in its nerfed state, although it certainly didn't help that it's one of the least arrow key friendly floors. But eventually, I was able to make it past to 8, and while in the practice place I couldn't really tell if this tower got nerfed or not, there were definitely some changes that made this floor easier. And now, it was time for the evil floor. Floor 9.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Although I know there are escapes for soft locks, I didn't feel like continuing since I didn't get to 7 legit to begin with, and it was getting late, so I decided to try again another day. Although that day would not come until the first night of 2026, so when I returned, I had basically 3 days left to beat 2 SCs, so I had to truly lock in and beat this quickly. Well, that sucks. Luckily I didn't die, so with a little bit of help from the recovery skip, I was able to make it back really quickly, although this 9 run was not nearly as pretty as the last one. But all of a sudden, I had a funny dilemma. Because I had technically completed the softlock section, for some reason this activated button progress that allows you to skip directly to the final stretch, but since I had failed the last 10 step route, I never actually made it to floor 10. Ultimately I decided it was not worth skipping floor 10, but my already slow floor 9 run was just made even slower, and time was now running short. with just a couple seconds to spare, I was barely able to get to 10. The only real challenge here was the 1x7, which I had a strat for, and now the final stretch. And now, there's only one more.
The hardest tower in Ring 1. Many have tried. Most failed. And some even cheated. Well, I mean,
Unfortunately, my options started running really thin. Everything extreme or higher is obviously out of the question. I've already beaten 7 of the 19 Insanes, and for my odd jumping experience, TODT, TOEH, TOMB, TOIF, TOCA, TOTL, TOVS, TOPZ, and TOROMW all had too many unfriendly jumps that were too inconsistent for me to attempt on keyboard only in a rerun. TORER and TOTHT are extremely lengthy peak insane towers that might be doable, but both had tons of hard raw gameplay that I didn't think I had the time for. So the only insane tower left is... oh god. The good news about TOC is that when it comes to beating SCs on keyboard only, this one probably has the smallest difficulty increase, since it doesn't have any big stickouts. And as long as you make it past the first 3 floors, I'd have a pretty good shot at beating it from there. The bad news is that I have to make it past the first 3 floors, which are all like terrifying difficulty, with let's just say, not the best or most consistent gameplay. Finally, I made it to floor 3, and it only took me... After that fail, I seriously did consider pivoting to TODT. However, with these jumps, yeah, it just wasn't happening, and so I had to stick with it. Over the course of several hours, I would very slowly and painfully make progress into this tower, until eventually a few hours in, I finally passed 3, and that's when I knew I had a chance. Even though you were only losing 3 floors of progress for the fall, chances are it'd take hours to make it back up, due to all the crappy luck-based gameplay below, so the pressure was on. The good news is that the tower gets much easier from here, but the bad news is that floors 4 and 5 still have SC level gameplay, and most of the difficulty comes in the form of these thin quarter studs, which I suck at. While failing that quarter stud was heartbreaking, at least there was hope. But this became a brutal cycle of brute force loop failing, which would last for hours before finally making back to 4, only to fail another thin stud part. And for the rest of the day, a couple hours would pass and I would not get another chance. At this rate, I had made it past 3 just 2 times and I was nearly 6 hours into the tower, with no consistency on anything resembling unindicated conveyors or any thin stud platform. All I could hope for was to get enough chances at getting to 8 and being safe from falling back to the first few floors. But while I did make it to 4 at a slightly faster pace, I was wasting my runs, unable to make it back to where I failed the first time. I was many hours deep into the final day at this point, and so as time passed into the night, the number of runs I had left were beginning to run out. But thankfully, I finally got another run, a run I so desperately needed that could end all the time and suffering that I put into this challenge, and I passed my PB. By one jump. By just one jump. When that happened, I thought it was over. I was defeated. Look, I'm not the best at obbies. Part of that is because I got used to a play method with obvious limitations, but still, I'm awful at thin studs, I'm horrible at sight reading, I don't understand how trusses work, and I'm not particularly great at certain types of wraps or client objects either. My hardest tower is mid-extreme, despite being at a stage where many other people have Terry or even cat completions. So yeah, I'm not that good at the game. But there's one thing that I do have, and it might be the most important skill of all, and it's genuinely the only thing that kept me going, because good god, this tower is so trash. And it's that I have content on the line, baby. Yeah, let's go. I wanted to make this video about me to prove how awesome and strong and handsome I am. And I cannot achieve any of those things without beating my 10th SC on arrow keys. But other than that, when I put my mind to this challenge, I was committed to pushing myself. Because no matter how painful that process may be, as long as you persevere, good things will happen. I didn't want to go down and quit like that. So after a quick dinner, I spent the next hour practicing the hell out of 4 and 5, and got right back into it. What? Oh no! I just spent all that time practicing the thin studs on floors 4 and 5 just to fail the easiest outside spinner section because I forgot that out of all the spinner sections in this tower, that was the only part where you can't wait for the spinner and you have to jump immediately or it knocks you off. Okay, I quit. See ya! Although that fail was a crushing blow, there was still time to try again, and I knew with confidence that I could make it back up there.
Oh my god. Are you kidding me? No! Oh my god.
As damaging as that fall back to 2 was, it would have been 100 times worse if I fell any further. The most important part was that I didn't fall past 2 outside. Now that I've made it to 8, I was officially safe from falling back down to the first 2 floors, but the danger wasn't over yet. Although 8 and 9 are pretty much jokes in difficulty, you do get soft locked if you fall, and I was 10 hours into the tower at this point, this being my first run here, so my nerves were through the roof.
Please, 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 do not fall here. Do not fall here. I'm gonna fall here, right? I'm so gonna fall here. Side B. Side B. Please. Please, 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 please. Don't fail 10. Please.
Getting to side B meant that I was pretty much safe until floor 10, which has the final soft lock. At this point, it was close to midnight, so this was likely going to be the final run of the video no matter what happened from this point on.
Oh, I think you can dance clip out. I think in-game you can dance clip out. This looks half a stud thick. Thank God.
Although it seems like the soft lock is dance clippable, it's still a dangerous killbrick pit, so I wasn't about to fall to find out if that was the case. However, the possibility of the escape certainly helped calm my nerves a lot, and allowed me to focus on one thing only: beating this shitty thing once and for all.
Shit. The fix. My glasses.
Everything is on the line. Kind of.
Okay. Oh my God. What the fuck was that? Why did I? Okay. Oh. Close cause galore. Yes! Oh! Finally, it's done. The quest for insanity complete. There were probably a few better options for a 100th tower. Sweet. Sweet relief.
Therefore, you have earned this win room. Take my respect. Truly, you're on your way to start a journey to beat what you can't even imagine. This is the start of it. Go find the green pad? Fuck you. I'm done with your puzzles. Your stupid ass puzzles. And your stupid ass conveyors and your stupid ass thin studs. Is it in this hole? It probably is, right? How much time did I take?
Over 11 hours. Holy. Touch the question mark. Yeah.